Welcome back to RADBMX Builds, and on this episode I'm going to show you my top 3 80s BMX bikes. I have several behind me. It's going to be a little hard for me to pick 3, but I'm going to show you all, pick my top 3, and then I want you to comment down below. What are your favorite top 3 80s BMX bikes? Okay, here they are lined up. The 1986 Huffy Sigma on the far right, and then we have an 88 GT Mach 1, and we have an 83 PK Ripper, an 87 Hutch Pro Racer, and then a couple freestyle bikes, an 88 Hutch Excel, and the iconic 87 GT Performer. So these are the 80s bikes that we're gonna choose from, and I'm gonna pick my favorite 3 out of that selection. You comment down below right now and you tell me, out of those, what are your favorite top 3? And tell me what your all-time top 3 are. All right, here we go. Let's pull out my first one. Okay, I'm sure you could have guessed it. This one is a no-brainer, my 1983 PK Ripper. And the reason I choose this as one of my top 3 is PK Rippers are iconic and notorious from back in the 80s. Perry Kramer, when he rode for SE, had his own model, the PK. That's what PK stands for in PK Ripper, Perry Kramer. And I'm gonna insert a photo of me right here riding a baby blue PK Ripper in the late 80s. I used to race on my PK Ripper, however, I cracked mine right here, which I found out later is a very common thing. These are an aluminum bicycle, so they aren't the strongest, but they are pretty lightweight. I love that they're a loop tail design, and this is what I would have wanted my old bike to look like if I could have bought what I wanted for it. This does look pretty similar. There are a few differences than the one I had in high school, but this is how I wanted this one to look in my collection. Let's go over some of the parts. Amy grips with the Fat Flight donuts, Dicomp MX lever, baby blue brake cable, Comp 3 style tires. I love this bike, the high flange hubs. My bike in the 80s had bullseye hubs, which was pretty rad. Gold headset. Then we got some Pro BMX 3-piece cranks. You're gonna notice there are a lot of repop parts on this, and I'm completely okay with that. This is my bike, and this is the way I wanted it to look. That is a Velo seat, and MX 1000 brakes on the rear. And I just love the gold and blue combo on this bike. So that's bike number 1. Now let me pull out bike number 2. Okay, my second pick is absolutely one of my favorite builds. This is a 1988 GT Mach 1. This full custom build came to me as a frame and fork set, and then I bought all the parts and components to build this bike. And what I was going for was kind of that late 80s Huntington Beach color bike that I would have wanted. I did not own one back then, but if I did, I would have wanted it to look like this. We did the iconic classic checker donuts, the lever brake cover, the dyno plate. Remember this guy from Town and Country? That's Joe Cool, the surfer. Just a lot of cool parts like the blue brake cable, the Comp 3 style tires, the high flange hubs, the GT valve cover. Yeah, I love these things. Huntington Beach GT pad set from Flight, GT mallet stem, GT dust cover on the headset, GT Power Series cranks. This bike, I just love all the details on it. GT seat post clamp, a GT style drop nose seat with the blue checkerboard pattern on it, which is super rad. So you can tell this bike's got a lot of small details on it, but it just screams 80s with those 80s colors. And I'm really happy with this bike in the collection. I don't foresee getting rid of this. That's why it's chosen as my number 2 favorite 80s BMX bike. Now let's pull out number 3. Okay, for the third one, I had to pull out a freestyle bike. This iconic GT Performer is one of the most well-known freestyle bikes of the 80s. Most kids were able to get their hands on one in that price range, and they were able to find them at almost any BMX shop anywhere in the United States. GT did a great job marketing this bike and making it available. I did not have one, however, I do now. And this one's incredibly special because it comes in chrome, not a painted color. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know, my friend Eddie Fiol assigned this one for me. So I don't think it's going anywhere, it's staying in the collection. Okay, let's go over some of the parts and components. Original GT, these are the levers that came on this Performer. I did add some Amy grips, some flight donuts, the lever cover. That is a repop mallet stem, but these are original bars, frame, forks, brakes, everything. It's just been redone. A big shout out to Ernie's 80s Bike Shop. He did the reconditioning of the brakes, the Gen 2 GT pegs, which look really good on this. I went with these GT Tomahawk first gen wheels, and my good friend Mr. Dice Guy came in clutch with the valve cover for it, and these are new GT tires. I actually have the originals, but they're pretty tore up, so I didn't put them on here. And a little side note, even the GT brake pads, which are really hard to find, really hard to come by. Odyssey gyro, let's move back here to the cheese grater. This is a GT stamped cheese grater, the old GT seat post clamp, not like the one on the Mach 1, this came before that. GT laid back seat post, which is stamped right here. These are hard to see, some of these stampings. GT seat in amazing condition. And then the brakes, that's how you can tell in 87. You got the brakes down here underneath. Got some frame standers. I hear a lot of dumb comments like, where are the pegs? Well, this one has frame standers and fork standers, so you don't need pegs. But it came with pegs, so I understand what you're saying, but I'm not a purist. So I put frame standers on mine, I'm not putting pegs on it. So anyway, another cool thing about this, it has the original California bicycle registration stickers on here, which I remember as a kid having because I grew up in California, which was pretty cool. Let me turn the bike around and show you something else. All right, check out this little piece of detail. Who remembers these? The ODI mushroom bearing cap. I happen to have several of these, and I had one in black, and I figured this is the perfect bike for it. So there it is. I love that little spot of detail on here. It's just the little things that I really like that really get me excited, and that's one of them. So that is the 1987 GT Performer, my third pick out of my top 3 80s BMX bikes. All right, you might be asking yourself, Sean, why didn't you pull out any of the Hutches? You got a couple Hutches, a Pro Racer and Excel from the 80s. Yes, and I never owned a Hutch in the 80s, and I don't even know anybody that owned a Hutch. I did know about them, and I did see them at the track, so on and so forth. And that's why I have them in my collection now. But the 3 bikes I showed to you had a little special place in my heart. Therefore, that makes the top 3. So even though I didn't pick the Hutches, I still love those bikes, and that's why they're in my collection. But I can't end this video yet because I have an honorable mention. I need to add a bike to the top 3. I know it's not in the top 3 that I just showed you, but it has to be talked about. So let me pull that bike out and show you this one. Everybody loves or hates this bike. Okay, this bike could be found at any department store, Pep Boys, anything like that for 99 bucks, probably even Kmart. But this bike, everyone saw it. Some people had it. Most people knew someone that had one, and I had one, therefore it's in my collection. I think you know what it is. For 99 bucks, you could have got yourself a Huffy Sigma made famous in the movie Mannequin, and I'll insert that photo right there. That bike for 99 bucks wasn't a great bike, but it's still cool, still nostalgic, therefore it's here. Check this out. Real quickly, I'll show you the 1986 Huffy Sigma. This bike is in incredible condition. All the decals are intact. The discs with reflectors are in perfect condition, no cracks on them. Now the rim's got a couple dings and there are a little few scratches here and there, but this is a 1986 bargain bike. So I wouldn't expect anything different. I did put different tires on it and just threw out the originals because they were terrible. I added the accordion seat post cover and I found some new old stock grips. So I replaced the yellowing grips, which I kept the originals. So there it is, the 1986 Huffy Sigma honorable mention, just because I had one, and everybody loves to talk about it. So comment down below, what do you think of that? Do you love it? Hate it? Does it bring back the memories? Really, that's what's most important, because we're all about building memories here. Now, a couple bikes that I want from back in the 80s that I've yet to add to my collection. I'm looking for a late 70s to early 80s Torker, and I want a white one, or to make it white and put gold parts and components on it. That's always a bike that I've wanted to build. Also, an old school power light, the kind that had the gusset up front that was similar to the Mongoose gusset. I think those were also late 70s, early 80s. So those are two bikes I'd like to get my hands on at a reasonable price to do a full build and then add to the collection behind me. I hope you liked these bikes. I hope they kicked off some cool memories. Don't forget to tell me down below what your top 3 are. And I hope you guys are having a great time. Let's get some merch. Please support us, radbmxbuilds.com/merch. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more rad content, and we'll see you next time. And as always, stay rad.